in that very instance, I watched my entire dreams, like all my dreams that I'd been planning for, just crumble around me. It was one of the hardest, most depressing moments of my entire existence.
This is the Adventure Sports Podcast, where we talk to athletes, adventurers, and business owners from around the world of adventure sports. Whether you're climbing Mount Everest, starting a bike shop, or getting up off your couch to take your kids hiking for the first time, we want you to have the motivation and inspiration you need to chase that next adventure. The Adventure Sports Podcast is brought to you by Camp Crate, the leaders in fully planned self-guided backpacking adventures, as well as backpacking gear rental. You can check them out at campcrate.net. So there's this new backpacking food company called Peak Refuel. And honestly, I gave them a shot for my last backpacking trip. Y'all, it was literally the best backpacking food I've ever had in my life. I was so impressed by them that I wanted to reach out and get a deal for our listeners. So if you keep listening to the episode, I'll tell you how to save 20% off an order with them.
Hey friends, check out Powder7.com, new sponsor for the Adventure Sports Podcast. I've worked with these guys for a couple of years, and two of my sons have bought their most recent pairs of skis there. What's cool is that while they do sell new skis, they also sell previously used demo skis. And these demo skis come with demo binding, so no need to remount anything. And they are sold for less than half of what you would have to pay otherwise. Great deal, great website, great people. Check out Powder7.com.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Danner. Really functional, really good-looking hiking boots, but they can serve all kinds of purposes. Check them out, danner.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Angie has a pretty interesting story. She decided she was not happy with corporate America anymore and wanted to pursue her career in Enduro mountain bike racing. So, pretty rad. So, we kind of, for the first half of the show, she kind of explains what it is and why she loves it. For the second half, we talk about what that transition's been like. So, if the conversation doesn't go where you think it's going to go, it's probably my fault. But it is a great conversation. We talk about all kinds of stuff. And we hope you get some inspiration for pursuing what you want to pursue. And also maybe some words of wisdom from what her and I have both learned in our respective paths. But hope you enjoy the show and let us know what you think. You can always give us a call. The number is at the end of the show. You can always email us at info@adventuresportspodcast.com. All right, here is our conversation. All right, well, welcome to the show. Today we have Angie. Angie.
How's it going, Mason?
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So where are you coming from today?
Well, that's kind of a hard question to answer, but currently I am sitting in Eden, Utah.
All right.
Working at my new job at Whisper Ridge Cat and Helicopter Backcountry Resort, and just taking a little bit of time away to chat with you. It's starting to get really crazy as we get closer to the winter season. Our books are starting to fill pretty fast. So yeah, it's a really exciting time because we're in the 4th year of operation, and this is the year of scaling the business and growth, and lots of really good things happening. So it's really a fun thing to be a part of.
Yeah, and I'll just give a quick background. You're a pro enduro mountain bike racer. You love to snowboard. You lived in a van for like 6 months through Van Do It. You're a brand ambassador for Peak Refuel, as well as what you just mentioned, Whisper Ridge in Utah. But all this is relatively new to you, correct?
Oh, absolutely. So kind of the long and short of it is I'm originally from Texas.
All right.
And I have been doing business to business sales, predominantly medical device sales since I got out of college in 2003. And fortunately that career path did afford me the means and a little bit of flexibility to be able to chase mountain sports. So just throughout my my 20s and early 30s, I have been mountain biking, riding motocross, chasing snowstorms, going on downhill mountain bike trips, and just really like being a Texan. A lot of people are like, how are you good at snowboarding being a Texan? Well, because I've spent all my money chasing storms and chasing mountain sports. So I finally, the last probably 3 or so years, I just really started to get bogged down by the daily corporate chase, the grind. Like, yes, I was able to take trips, but I just found myself the last 3 years just kind of waking up depressed and not being happy with what I was doing, knowing that I wasn't serving the purpose that I feel like my life was intended for. And I'm trying to figure out what that intention is, or like what my passions are that are going to give me a little bit of more of a fulfilled life.
Yeah.
And so, I've been mountain biking since 2003, and I learned my love for downhill and going, doing drops and jumps and railing berms. I kind of found that love as I started taking downhill trips, like in 2005-ish. And so just 2 years ago, Enduro racing really started getting really popular in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And there were some really good series there that I entered into and started winning them. And just really decided that, you know what, I kind of want to take a midlife sabbatical, because I have just grinded it out so hard, in my 20s and early 30s. And like, I was starting to have that feeling that a lot of people have, like, this life is really short, and I'm not going to be young forever, and I'm not going to have this body forever.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend it waking up every day, grinding it out and like essentially passing up on my youth. I was also very unhappy in healthcare sales. It's just becoming a really, really stressful and negative place to work. And
oh man, I can imagine.
I wanted to change my life. I wanted to make a change. So I decided, because I had won, all these races and race series, that I wanted to try to essentially be a professional racer on a national level. So instead of sitting around whining and having the poor, pitiful me, attitude in life, I decided to make some changes. So I started really actively searching for sponsors, and became a brand ambassador, and got sponsored by We Are One Composites, which is a wheel company out of Canada. They're amazing. And Ellsworth Bikes. Got those 2 sponsorships. And then I decided that the missing link to me leaving my career and trying to do this professional race thing was lodging on the road. Like, how was I didn't want to pay for hotels, because that would run me dry.
Definitely. Yeah. I
didn't want to just sleep in my car, because that was going to eventually become uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'd get old. I agree.
Yeah. So I reached out to Van Dewitt and asked them if they would be willing to partner with kind of gave them my story. I wanted to kind of live the dream of quitting my corporate life and chasing a passion. And they said immediately, yes, let's do this. So once I signed a contract with them, I quit my job 2 weeks later. And then 3 weeks later, I had a U-Haul in tow on the way to Missouri to pick up my new van. And in April, I set out on the road and headed to my first race.
Which was where?
It was in Arkansas. It was the first race of the new Arkansas Enduro Series. And for anybody that's into mountain biking, Arkansas is probably the leading state in mountain biking right now. Like, they are absolutely, Bentonville, like Northwest Arkansas, they are creating an incredible mountain bike scene that's like nothing I've ever seen. It's just incredible. And it all has to do with the Walmart Foundation pumping millions and millions of dollars into making Bentonville the most livable city in America. And it's just really, really amazing.
Wow.
It's an amazing place to go ride bikes.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Just do a little research. I mean, you can Facebook, you can Google just Northwest Arkansas, Bentonville, Oz Trails, Arkansas Enduro Series. I mean, there is a wealth of bike awesomeness that's happening there right now. If I didn't get a job at Whisper Ridge, which is a kind of a dream job for me, I would have moved to Arkansas, no question.
Man.
which is just crazy. I never thought in my life I'd say I'd want to live in Arkansas, but Arkansas is a very special place.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in the Ozarks, and they are surprisingly absolutely stunning mountains and
They are.
scenery. And I can imagine some of the routes they've built around there are world class. That's so crazy. I
Yeah.
was totally not aware of that. So you mentioned Bentonville being kind of up and coming bike mecca. Has there been any place that surprised you? Like, man, this place is overrated. Like, it's not as great as people say it is.
I went to a lot of places in Colorado this summer. So,
Oh no,
well,
that's where we are.
no, and I can only speak to that because, so kind of to back up a little bit. So I went to Arkansas to go to my first race. I won it. It was the biggest winnings that I've ever had. It was a $2,000 prize for first place in pro women's, and that was pretty incredible to win. And then I was off to my next race in Santa Fe, which was my very first national pro race. It was
cool.
it was the Big Mountain Enduro at Glorietta Camps in Arkansas. And I got there a week early. It was my first national race in my van. I was super excited. Like, life was starting for me. New chapter. Did a couple of days of practice, and my very last stage, which is just one of the downhill stages, I crashed on a big drop that I actually really didn't want to do, but I kind of felt that pro pressure to do it.
Mm.
And I crashed and broke my shoulder.
Oh man.
In that very instance, I watched my entire dreams, like all my dreams that I'd been planning for, just crumble around me. It was one of the hardest, most depressing moments of my entire existence.
Dang.
Yeah. And I actually thought I had tore a bunch of stuff in my shoulder, but I mean, looking back now, I had only broken my, my greater tuberosity. But so on that note, I spent the, part of the contract with Van Duet was, I was going to be at all these races. I had given them my race schedule. I was going to be at all these resort towns all over Colorado and, New Mexico and Utah. And for them, it was great exposure. So it was a good partnership, with me.
Right,
so,
right.
I had a decision to make. Was I going to just go home and run away, or was I going to continue on my path and do the best that I could and, still try to represent the van company and still network within the race community? And so I decided to do that and not run away from it all. So I spent the first half of the summer rehabbing my shoulder and hiking, and I still would go to the races and support my friends and get exposure to the van and just kind of live the spirit. And then finally, the last half of the summer, I was able to at least participate in the last 4 races of the season. I didn't do as well. I won one of them, but that was a small class. But I didn't do as well as I wanted to in the bigger class just because I wasn't strong. My shoulder was still hurting, and I kept kind of crashing on it. And it was just kind of one of those things where I just really wanted to do those races to just complete them and not necessarily, like, I wanted to win, of course, but I knew I wasn't really strong enough to do it because I still have problems with my shoulder. So as far as places that are overrated, I didn't get to ride as much of the places as I wanted to. But really, honestly, the opposite happened for me because in my travels in my past, since I was living in Texas, I would only travel to go to downhill parks because I've got cross country in Austin. We have great cross country. But, what you can't get there is like lots of elevation with lots of gravity and downhill trail. So when I would travel to Colorado, I would take advantage of the lift served riding, and I didn't ever get to do a lot of backcountry riding. And so what I was actually surprised about was how great the riding was outside of the bike parks. And actually some of the bike parks that I had never been to. So, I got to go to Aspen Snowmass to do a race there. That was incredible. Absolutely mind-blowing. Snowmass Downhill Park is insane, and I'd never been. Crested Butte is amazing. Steamboat was awesome. Vail is pretty decent. Winter Park, of course, Trestle Downhill Bike Park is like world class downhill park. And then Glorietta Camps in Santa Fe, I learned was amazing. So I actually learned that there's more riding, I guess better riding than I ever knew that there was out there.
Wow.
But no park I think of that I think has been stated as, like overrated. Not at all.
Good.
Because to me, a day on a bicycle, if I can get out there and not crash and get an injury, is a good day for me.
That's awesome. And that's a good attitude. So like I said before, Peak Refuel is a new company making freeze-dried food. And it's literally the best freeze-dried meals I've ever had. You can use it for backpacking, camping, hunting, whatever you want to use it for. And these folks are the real deal. They spent over 2 years researching the market and creating the perfect recipes, and it is just absolutely awesome. I used the meals on my last guided trip. The people on the trip could not even believe that it was freeze-dried food. Literally, you put a cup of water, and it's like a cup or cup and a half. It's not very much water, and it tastes like it came from a restaurant. That's how good it is. If you're interested in ordering some yourself, you can get 20% off by going to peakrefuel.com and use ASP20 at checkout. I encourage you, go get some, try it for yourself. It's amazing.
This is Colorado nature photographer John Fielder with a great idea for gifting our state this season. Don't get mad at me. My latest Colorado book actually takes the color out of colorful Colorado. Carpets of purple columbine, forests of yellow aspens, and buff-colored herds of elk are rendered in black, white, and gray. You'll be mesmerized by the edges, shapes, and textures of our most beautiful of states. You'll love it. Visit johnfielder.com to see my new book, Colorado Black on White. That's johnfielder.com.
So I want to go back to, you're obviously huge into enduro racing. When did you get into it, and what got you into it?
So actually, it's a really good question. So I kind of want to talk about what enduro is, because a lot of people don't understand the format or how it came to be.
Yeah, please explain what it is, because, you're right.
Because, it's actually, I teach free enduro clinics to women that want to get into it, because right now it's a very misunderstood sport by those that have just never tried it before. So, like, if you break down the history of mountain biking, you've always kind of had XC racing, which is based on endurance, and bar-to-bar racing. You start at the start line and you're all trying to get to the finish line at the same time. So, you have to have high endurance. Typically, road bikers are big fans of XC racers because they're already really good at endurance, and the mountain bike trails that they use aren't typically very technical. It's mainly just single track, long distance single track. That is like kind of buffed out. They're riding bikes that are designed to climb and not necessarily designed to descend well, but they climb really, really well. They've got really steep head angles. Typically, they're riding a hardtail or a very short travel rear suspension bike because they want to get all the power that they can and not lose it in their suspension. So they just don't usually have a lot of travel in the fork or in the rear. And so then you also historically have had downhill mountain biking, which is the complete opposite. The bikes were meant to descend really fast. They have really large travel suspensions, and they don't climb well at all. And so over the last, 5-6 years, the bike industry has figured out how to design bikes that do both really well. And that's like an all mountain enduro style bike. So you're going to have larger travel bikes, but the geometry allows for a reduction of pedal bob when you go up. They're also building them in 29-inch wheels that just give you, lots of top end speeds, the ability to, roll over obstacles a lot cleaner than say a 27.5. 27.5s are going to be a little bit more playful. And they can stop a little faster. They're going to be more nimble, but 29s are, kind of like big wheel trucks. It can just kind of go over anything. But anyway, so with the creation of these enduro style bikes, you now are able to take race formats off of the lift served platform and put it into backcountry scenarios where you're not just downhill racing from the lift down. You're actually having to pedal through these mountain ranges to get to your stages. And so what Enduro is basically is the format completely depends on the race promoter. So you could have a 1-day format or a 2-day format. But the goal is that you're only racing the downhill portions. You have a timer on your bike, but you still have to pedal up to get to those downhill stages. So typically on a Saturday morning, the race will start. So like I said, either a 1 or 2-day format. The 2 days prior to that were typically practice days where they'll give you the map of where all the stages are. So Saturday morning, we have a riders meeting. Everybody has the timers on their bikes. And then each class leaves to start pedaling to the first downhill stage. The pedal part is not timed. Those are called the transfers or the transitions. You usually have a time in the day to finish everything. So like they'll say, all right, we're starting at 8, but you got to be back in by 3. Some of them give you times that you have to get to your downhill stage, but essentially once you pedal up to your first stage, there's usually a line because it's a race and everybody's kind of going at the same time. So you wait in line. Then when it's your turn, you start at the starting tape at the top. There's usually somebody there regulating the time. And then they tell you to go when it's your turn, and you go and you pedal as fast as you can to the bottom. And then there's a timer at the bottom that times you. And so once you get done there, you wait for your group that you're riding with, and you all transition together to the next stage. That transition can be anywhere from 10 minutes to 3 hours, just depending on where you are. So, like in the Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas races, we usually do 11 stages throughout the weekend because our transitions are much shorter. But in the big mountain races out west, like in Utah, Colorado, your transition times can be anywhere from an hour to 3 hours. And so a lot of times you can only fit 2 stages into the day. But like I had a stage in Aspen that was 18 to 20 minutes long. So you're getting some really solid downhill in there. Whereas, a Texas Enduro, your stage might be 3 to 6 minutes long.
So are they considering the difficulty of the transition in the racing as well?
Well, I mean, some people might do that, but for pro racers, I mean, you train to be on your bike that long. So the cool thing about what I think is cool about enduro racing is that I have to be skilled in every single aspect of mountain biking. Like XC riders, I feel like when I meet them, their mindset is they got to be really, really, really fast at the climb, but they almost don't really care about going fast downhill. They think, well, I'll just make it up in the climb. Well, in enduro racing, you have to be physically fit to be on your bike for up to 8 hours. I mean, you can be on your bike all day long. So if you are not trained endurance wise to endure a 2-hour transition that's straight up the entire time for 2 straight hours, then you're going to be too tired to do well in your downhill. So you have to be trained in endurance. You have to be trained in sprinting, which means you got to incorporate long rides. You have to incorporate interval training. You also have to be really, really skilled at the downhill parts. You have to train in the bike parks. You have to learn how to do drops. You have to learn how to do gap jumps. You have to learn how to do tables. Now, oftentimes in these races, if there is a high penalty feature like a big drop or a gap double, there is always a beeline, but it gives you a time penalty. So if you choose to take the slower route, the easier route, you will have a time penalty. So it behooves you to be the best you can be at doing those drops, those jumps, railing berms, hucking over rock gardens, whatever it is. That's what I love about enduro is you have to have such a wide skill set, and to be good at enduro, I think it is like the ultimate mountain biker. Like they have everything, which is it's just fun.
Yeah, it really I can tell you love it. Like
it is. Yeah, I do. I really do.
Really love it, which is awesome. And you mentioned that you coach now. Is that what you do to help support yourself?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm kind of like in my life trying to figure out how I'm going to support myself because I don't really want to go back into the corporate grind. I mean, I have a fantastic resume and I can always go back, but I know that I don't want to. So, I'm right now, I'm seeking that thing that I think every person going through this same thing that I am is seeking. Like, okay, how can I support myself and yet still live my my dreams and my passions.
Yes. Yes.
Probably a lot like what you're doing, with your podcast.
Definitely.
I would love to be a coach. I think it's my ultimate dream because the most fun days I've ever had on a bike, even when comparing my race days, some of my most fun days are days where I teach people how to ride enduro. And when they actually succeed, it feels so good. And so I don't have any coaching certifications. I just haven't made the time to get them. It's like something I want to do, but like I keep, there's all this other stuff I want to do too. So it's like, when am I going to find the time? But I need to just do it. But there's a couple level certifications I can get where, it can legitimize my coaching. So what I've been doing in lieu of that is I started a Facebook group page in Texas called Texas Women's Gravity Enduro, because there are a ton of women that ride XC, but they don't know how to get into enduro. They don't know how to do downhill because they're not riding the right equipment and they don't realize it. They need enduro bikes. They're trying to do this stuff on XC bikes and they have this sense of failure. Well, rightfully so, because I wouldn't do this stuff on an XC bike either. I wouldn't do this drop on a steep head angled bike. There's just so many factors in teaching women how to get into it. And so I created this group, which now has like 100 something members in Texas. But I wasn't really reaching for numbers. I was reaching for, quality. And so once I gained a kind of a following within my group, because I was kind of looked up to in that area because I was winning races and, all of the females that were striving for that, like kind of looked up to me. And so gaining a following was pretty easy. And then once I did that, I started putting on free enduro clinics to just kind of get a sense of how I do coach and how people respond to my coaching. And it turned out that they responded really, really well. And so it did light my fire to become a coach. So my next step is just to, get my certifications and, just start something here in Utah, because what I have found here in Utah specifically is there is a very, very broken mountain bike community they don't mesh well together. And enduro is very, very slow here. Nobody really understands what it is because there's no races out here. There's only one race. Is just so ripe for good biking out here. So one of my goals in moving and living in Utah is to, I would like to be a super strong voice in getting the mountain bike community, specifically for like enduro and gravity minded folks. Cause there's plenty of XC riders here. It's 90% of the people that ride here are XC. Because they've never ridden on an enduro bike. And so trails have to be built differently. For this new style of bike, it's like the trails have to evolve with the equipment. So historically, I said you have an XC bike, you've got a downhill bike. So they, at the downhill park, like Deer Valley, you've got downhill trails for the downhill bikes. Great. Everywhere else, the trails are built for XC bikes, which, instead of like when you've got this beautiful terrain, they're building trails along the ridge line rather than utilizing the ridgeline's gravity to create fun, flowy lines, right? So as these bikes have evolved, unfortunately, the Utah trail building has not evolved with the bikes. So there's this void right now between downhill and XC. There's no enduro style trails, or few of them. And so my goal is to figure out who I have to talk to. I'm gonna make a Facebook page called Utah Gravity Enduro, which I've actually already made. I just need to actually get it published. But I want to bring the gravity minded people together that can help. So, be a niched community that wants to come out and build trail and get approvals and really like catch up with the rest of the world. Because from what I have seen, Utah is the absolute slowest to catch on to this style riding, which that's the direction that the industry is going. So it needs to be done.
Oh, yeah, wow. I find that really crazy because any given weekend in the summer from Denver, there is just a line of cars with mountain bikes on the back or on top heading to Moab, heading to southern Utah.
Well, so southern Utah's great. Moab's great. But like northern Utah, like up here in Ogden and Park City has great riding. But like all of the sort of outlying, like Ogden is a perfect example. We have so much terrain up here. I'm sitting here right now looking at incredible mountain bike terrain that's not being utilized. So it's just like getting these little outer communities that still have great terrain to kind of catch on, because it's old school mentality. But yeah, Moab and St. George, like that area, that riding is incredible, incredible. So we just got to get the rest of the world caught up, rest of the Utah.
Awesome. So, with your big life transition and trying to make it on your own and around your passions, how difficult has that been so far?
Super. One of the ways that I was going to support myself was by selling vans. And Van Do It has a really, really incredible build out. They do it on Ford Transit chassis. But what I have found when talking to people that are interested in buying vans is that they research, they take forever to make decisions. And so like there are some people that I've been working with for 6 months answering questions about the van build out. It's just selling adventure vans has been a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be, because there's so many builders out there that are starting to come out, that are like, one man jobs that are trying to build these awesome custom vans. So there's a lot of options for people on which van to get, what style they want, and it's a hard decision to make. I knew immediately seeing Van Do It Vans, it is the exact van that I wanted to get into. That's been tough. Also, living on the road, I don't always have the internet access, or I didn't. I'm stable now and I'm settled now, but in Utah. But that, and I don't know if it was my fault that I didn't sell as much product as I wanted to, because I could have sold wheels for We Are One, but it would have basically required me to become a sales rep again and go cold call on bike shops. And I think that during this summer, during my sabbatical, I didn't want to work. Like I wanted some time for the first time in my life to just not sell. I've been selling stuff since I got out of college, and I'm kind of I got burned out of trying to talk people into things. And so I just really wanted a break. So I spent this summer just really not worrying, because I saved up enough money in my device career that, I've been comfortable and not struggling. And so I think that it was just a direct result of my lack of effort. But now that I'm in Utah and I am settled and I do have a job with Whisper Ridge, I have that fire back, to create success and just build my next chapter. And so I'm definitely constantly searching for what that might be.
You just keep your eyes open, of course. You're going to have opportunities like selling those wheels, but it sounds like you just wasn't going to be a good fit for what you were needing at the time. So, that's what I tell a lot of people. You can beat yourself up all day over the missed opportunities, but there are just millions of opportunities out there. And if you just keep looking and you're just even a little bit diligent and just stay a little organized with it, you can make a lot of headway really quickly. And it sounds like that just wasn't a good fit. So it's probably best that you didn't go do that right now. Maybe you will at some point, but for now, at least.
And that wasn't necessarily like the way they sponsor, like We Are One wheel composites sponsored my racing. They gave me a couple sets of wheels, and I give them some pretty decent content on social media. And, also with Van Do It, I had this grand plan to like become a YouTuber and, like document my whole journey. And, I just kind of got tired of always filming and talking. And I didn't feel like being a YouTuber was a real sustainable career for me, because I'm just not sure that like always having a camera open is the kind of lifestyle that I want.
Right. Yeah. I get that completely.
And the editing, like I've never had anybody teach me how to edit. And so I just kind of felt stumped by technology. I just wasn't, and I could probably still do it. I mean, I've still got all the footage. I could probably still put together some videos and stuff, but honestly, I don't know how to make a movie, or, I don't know. I have Adobe, Lightroom or Final Cut Pro. I have all that, but I don't know how to use it. And so right. I'm stumped by that.
Yeah, I get it. I've thought about that too. Like, make videos, because I got a cousin that's like doing that and doing well. But I sit down to edit hours worth of footage. Forget that. that's about the last thing I want to sit down and do in front of a screen, you know?
And I think a lot of people enjoy that part of it though, and that's great for them.
Yes, and they're the ones that need to do it, not me.
Yeah, and so those YouTubers are successful. They're, doing well. I've heard mixed reviews about how much of a income you can make on, I think some make really good living on it. Some struggle. My basic lack of knowledge in movie making would have caused me to struggle for longer than I wanted, and then kind of get to a point where I burn out.
Yeah.
So it's just not a strong place for me. So I think where I need to find my strong place is, just figuring out, like, I know that I would be a killer coach. And so
it sounds like you really know your sport and love to learn about it. So I think I agree.
I think I'm a good teacher too. Like, when I am out with the women, the compliment I always get is the way that I motivate them. And, I just really love to do that. So I think that's the direction I'm going to end up going. But first I'm going to focus on Whisper Ridge. I get to go to backcountry guide school the first week of December to learn how to be a guide, which I'm super stoked about. I'm not necessarily going to make that my career, but it's just kind of like something fun to do. And I'm really excited to do that.
So when you made this big transition, you got in touch with Van Do It, and you lived in a big Sprinter van and went around racing. I got a couple questions about that. That was
Sure.
A short-term experience, 6 months, right?
Yes, but I still have the van, and
okay.
I didn't get rid of it. I that was just like a point where I was actually living in it every day.
Okay. So tell us, what was that like, living in a van, going from corporate America to living in a van every day of your life?
Amazing.
Oh,
Best experience I've ever had. There's definitely some challenges to overcome in the beginning, but then it all becomes routine. So my van it's a Ford Transit passenger van. The Van Do It build outs are very modular. They use extruded aluminum T-track to essentially build out the van and change it as you need it, depending on what adventure you're going on. It's got a really awesome gear slide in the back. I can fit, and my bed is on hydraulics, so I can actually fit 2 road bikes and 3 mountain bikes on my gear slide in the back under my bed, and the whole platform pulls out. I have an onboard air compressor. I've got water. I've got a shower. It's an outboard shower. It's not inside the van. I've got a sink. I've got, full electricity, solar panels, 320 watts of solar. I've got 3 solar batteries as a secondary battery bank. So essentially I had every single thing that I needed. Oh, and I also took with me a toilet that is it's called the dry flush toilet. You can find them on Amazon, I think, but they're kind of like the diaper genie. They have 7 feet of bag that's attached to a motor at the bottom. So basically you go, and I reserved it for number 2 because pee is actually what stinks over time as it gets older, and the poo actually will stink less over time. And so the recommendation I had was to not ever pee in it, was always just use it for number 2. So you go in it, and like a diaper genie, it's got a motor that actually twists the bag shut to where it doesn't stink. It doesn't let out any fumes, and then opens up the next section of bag. And so you basically are making a chain of poo inside your toilet. So
That's awesome.
There's no water. You charge the toilet once, and it lasted me all summer. It's a really, really cool toilet. And I really only used it for emergencies. Like if I was at a race and the only place to park was in a parking lot and maybe pretty far away from the bathrooms, and I woke up and it was duty calls, I would go right then instead of going to hunt for a bathroom. Another trick to a lot of people ask is, okay, as a female living in a van, how did you what was the pee situation like? Because for a woman to have to get out of the van and go find a place to pee, that can sometimes be precarious. Sometimes I would sleep in a parking lot. If I was coming into a town and maybe there's it was late and I didn't want to find a camp spot, I would find a Walmart parking lot anywhere my van is super stealth. It's black and it looks kind of like a utility van. So really no one ever knew I was sleeping in it. So basically I could just park wherever I wanted to, as long as, for safety reasons, as long as I felt safe. I would park there. And sometimes in a parking lot, you don't want to get out and pee in the parking lot in public. So actually I had the opportunity to go and work the booth. I had never heard, do you know what Outdoor Retailer is?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan. Go every year. I live like 10 minutes from there.
So I really had no idea what I was getting into, but Van Do It, part of my contract is that I work events whenever they need reps to go. But so Van Do It asked me to go, and I really had no idea what it was. I was just like, okay, cool. And as a couple days before, I sort of started researching it and realized how big of an event it was. Started getting really excited. I didn't realize it was just a retailer event, that it wasn't really open to the public. So I went there with the mindset of, I'm going to go network, not only work for Van Do It, but network myself as an athlete. That's actually where I met Peak Refuel.
Oh, cool.
And I'll tell that story in a minute. But one of the coolest, probably the absolute neatest product, my number one favorite product of the year, other than my van itself, is a product called the Tinkle Bell. And
I have an idea of what that might be.
It allows a woman to stand and pee. And now there are a lot of other brands. There's like the Go Girl, the Shiwi. I have tried in my past all of those, and I didn't like any of them, because they all still required you to kind of pull your pants down. You still had to expose your butt. The funnel was not long, so you'd pee on yourself. And I just found all of them to be just kind of crappy products in general. And so this is a startup company, the Tinkle Bell. The owners came up to me and just handed me one. They were like, please give us your feedback. You're a female, you're into the outdoors. We'd love to hear back from you. So I took it. And that night, actually, I had parked my van in the front parking lot in front of Outdoor Retailer. It's like a $50 a night thing. It was really expensive, and so I wasn't going to move my van anywhere. So having to sleep at night in a parking lot where there was no way to use the bathroom anywhere close, I was like, perfect opportunity to use this thing. So I had an empty bottle, I had my Tinkle Bell, and I used it for the first time, and it blew my mind. And it is now my favorite item to date of anything. It has been the most helpful thing. So now when I'm in my van anywhere, instead of getting out to pee, I go right there. I always have an empty bottle, and it is just so easy to stand and pee right there in my van. It's not messy. I don't spill it anywhere. It is awesome. And so that's been a huge question for me, is how do you go to the bathroom and how do you shower in the van? And for me, I don't know if it's because I'm a female and I'm outgoing, but kind of all summer, no matter where I went, I was offered a hot shower somewhere. So I only had to use my van shower like 3 times.
Wow.
I think just van life in general, that's, people always have those questions. Where can I shower and where can I go to the bathroom? Everything else, it's sleeping is super comfortable. I have a vent fan in my ceiling. I turn that on at night and it totally cuts out all of the noise. So if I'm sleeping by a busy street, I can't hear anything. So those are kind of the two bigger challenges for van lifing that I have figured out.
Wow, so it doesn't sound like it really got old to you then.
No, I loved it. And I, just because I didn't really make much money this summer, I did really, I was like, even though I want to keep doing this, I really, I do need to find a stream of income before, it gets to the point where I don't have any money. Cause right now I'm still comfortable, and not stressing about making, a huge income, but it's going to get to a point here real soon that, I'm going to be ready to start making some money. I'm working on a commission basis with Whisper Ridge right now as they're kind of growing their business, and that'll probably change, in the next few months. But for now, it's kind of eat what you kill sort of thing, which is fine because it keeps me on my toes, keeps me working hard.
By now, you certainly know who Bent Gate is. That's for a great reason. Bent Gate Mountaineering has been sponsoring the Adventure Sports Podcast almost from the beginning, and we really appreciate that. They've made it possible for all the great shows to continue coming your way. We want to say thanks by reminding you to go to them for your backcountry gear. If you live in Colorado, then just stop by their store in Golden. If not, go to bentgate.com. They have what you need, from the latest ultralight gear to the tried and true classics for climbing, hiking, and camping, like Arc'teryx, Hilleberg, Nemo, Western Mountaineering, and many more. Need advice? They have you covered there too. Their staff are passionate adventurers who can offer help from their own experiences. Bentgate also hosts lots of events and speakers. Check out their website to see the schedule and to see all of their products. Help take care of the Adventure Sports podcast by getting your gear from Bentgate Mountaineering.
The Adventure Sports podcast is also brought to you by Powder7 Ski Shop. Powder7 is Colorado's premier homegrown and family-owned ski shop. Online at powder7.com, they offer a huge selection of new and used ski gear, plus full tech and boot fitting services at their shop in Golden. With personalized customer service, they set up skiers from all over the world with perfect gear. From brands like Kesley, Rosignol, Black Crows, and Head, Powder7 is all skiing all the time. So check out powder7.com to learn more. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, and thanks for being honest, by the way. I love it because we do this series every Friday called Life Outside the Box. I'm going to put you on that show. And it's just basically like, what is it like to pursue your passions and try to make a career, at the very least a side hustle? Because a lot of people want to do it. A lot of people don't ever take any sort of leap. You took a huge leap. Huge. And, you know, and we would like to say, I don't care like if it works or doesn't, taking that leap is, at some point in your life, you're going to want to do it, or you got to at least try. Even if it just crumbles to the ground, sit back and be happy and know that I was out there. I was in the game. I wasn't on the sideline criticizing everybody. Can I ask you this? When living in your van, did you get better at your sport? Being able to focus on it more?
No, actually, and only because I was dealing with a broken shoulder. So that's kind of a hard question to answer.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, you know, there were lots of points in the summer where I was just like, what am I doing? You know, like I'm a 37-year-old woman with a broken shoulder out here making no money, trying to live this, you know, I'm a pro racer kind of mentality. And you know what? I had to come to the conclusion that that's okay, because that's what I wanted to do. It's what happened. And so instead of crying about it, instead of being depressed about it, I just adapted and overcame the circumstances, and I earned this job through Whisper Ridge. And so I'm actually really, really stoked where I've landed, because there's such incredible opportunity with the growth of this company. I'm really, really, really happy with kind of what's happening so far. There's a lot of good stuff in the pipeline. And to be honest, I mean, yes, I may race next summer. I likely will. But I think the opportunity here at Whisper Ridge is almost, it's kind of too hard to pass up. So it will depend on what happens with this, on if I keep racing next summer. Because I'd like to try it again, you know, injury free, you know, to see how I do. Because the last 4 races I did, I raced through pain, and through a mental block of don't crash, because don't re-injure your shoulder. And that actually caused me to crash more, because it was just a mindset. You know, I was stuck in this gutter of being scared while I ride, and that never is good. That's a never a good combination.
No.
But I got mentally stronger, definitely. I may not have gotten better at my craft, but I went through a lot of huge learning things this summer, which was good. I'm currently working on my mindset. I'm listening to a lot of like Tony Robbins. He's so awesome at motivational stuff. I've got a couple podcasts that I listen to that I just turn on every morning, and it like totally switches my mind around, like just how to live positively and live for the moment and be thankful and have, you know, gratitude, and not letting these thoughts that creep in that cause me to worry about my future. They're pointless. They don't do anything. Worrying does absolutely nothing. So I just try to like learn how to cut those thoughts off immediately. And it is actually, these podcasts have changed my life just in a matter of months.
Wow.
I'm grateful for that. And if I had not come on this journey, I'd still be stuck in that corporate grind, not having tried to better my mind state. And so just that alone was worth this journey. Even if nothing comes out of this, I've learned how to control my mind, which has been just absolutely invaluable for me.
Yeah, I was going to say that's priceless. And I would say this, if you would have stuck with that job, you know what? You'd be laying in your bed in your house one night thinking, what am I doing? Rather than in your van with a broken shoulder. So it's kind of all relative, you know?
Completely. Yeah. My stress level now, like, it's amazing what stress does to your body. And like, yes, I haven't made money all summer, and that part is a little bit worrisome, but I know that I could, if I wanted to start making money now, I could somehow. I could go back to whatever, but just not having that like daily, the boss asking, what are you going to close today? Like just this daily like pressure of meeting quotas, and it just got so stressful that like I would just have this ball of stress in my gut every single day. And that is so unhealthy for people.
Oh,
and I don't
God,
have that
yeah.
anymore. And that alone, even though I don't have a big revenue stream coming in right now, that alone is happiness to me. So I'm cool with it.
That's awesome. And I have to say, that's the reality of this. When you pursue something, I quit what I was doing about 6 months ago, and to pursue my passions full time, and they ain't got a paycheck. It's been stressful. I will lay in bed a lot thinking like, what the heck am I doing with my life? And then there's these little wins here and there. And I realized, wow, these little wins are so meaningful. When I had wins in my old career, I would kind of sit back and think, I'm not really all that proud of that. Like I am, it's like I had it on my mind and it's a relief, but in reality, I'm not super stoked about it. Now when there's a win, it's like completely life-giving. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I'm saying?
It is. Yeah, it's great. That's really awesome. Where did you come from? What's your background?
Well, man, all kinds of things. I was a bike packer and bike tourer for a long time and traveled around for like really long stints, and I met a girl. We got married pretty quick and settled in Denver, and she teaches here in town. She's a teacher, and I ran a little painting business, like house painting. And I just had done it all through college, grew up doing it, and we moved here with no plan, so that was really easy to get into. Did that for a few years, and I'm like, I could grow this and start, hiring more people and a crew, and I just thought, oh my God, forget this. And so I tried to start a bunch of little side hustles in the meantime, but every one of them were just, failing one after another. Finally, one got some traction, and I'm like, I just got to go all for it. And it's been really hard, honestly, but I will say it's kind of what life is about. Like I'm really honestly content with laying in bed at night sleepless, because the concerns on my mind are revolving around the things that I feel I was born to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Which is what is your passion?
I love connecting people with the outdoors, with nature. And so from guided trips to sending people backpacking, which is what I do now. It's like a backpacking travel agency. And, it's a slow build, but it's like planting an acorn, those mighty oaks that are down in the South. I'm from the South. I'm from Florida. And we just got these huge oak trees that they're huge. They're like cathedrals underneath the canopies. And
cool.
Just to think that they start from those little acorns, it's unbelievable. And so it's a slow grind like that, And
totally.
I would say the concerns before with like, I got to get this job done. I got to please this boss. They're on this job, on this contract. And like, I don't care what color your Fourier is. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's not your passion.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally get what you're saying. It's stressful, and it is a comfort knowing, if this didn't work out, like you said, you could jump into a job somewhere. You'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
You could just got a little life you're going to live. You might as well chase something super hard and do something, pretty unique with it, like you've done in the last few years.
Yeah. The key too, a lot of people don't get, and I'm still trying to learn that too, is patience and persistence.
Oh yeah, patience.
Because it's so easy to quit right at the last minute, right when things are about to open up, and you don't realize it. And it takes a grind, like nobody that's successful is successful overnight, unless they're some trust fund kid or whatever. But people that are trying to build something out of nothing, it just usually doesn't happen overnight. They spend years and years and years, and they work every single day. And, that's the life of a modern day entrepreneur. There's just so much to do, from the marketing, the social media, the product, the service, like everything. It's not easy. And so you just have to work super hard.
Yep.
I think that's what a lot of people don't get.
Yep. And every once in a while, someone might have it a little easier, but don't be fooled. That is by no means going to be most likely the case for you, for me, for anyone else out there listening to this. And I would have to say, I'm glad you brought that up too. One of my saving graces in the last few years have been podcasts.
Oh, yeah?
As funny as that is, I tell people that don't get it. It's like therapy. There's a show about anything and everything, and you get attached to the consistency of the show coming out. Like, all right, it's Tuesday or Thursday or whatever. And it just gets you out of your mindset and get someone else to influence it with, more positive approach. It's like it brings the insight of reading, but gives you the freedom to do other things. Like you could ride your bike and listen to all of the podcasts you want to, and you still get that same education that you would from a book, I think that's one thing.
Oh, totally. Podcasting, it's crazy. I haven't done it until this summer. I just didn't know about it. I would see all these people posting podcasts, but I guess I really didn't understand the concept of it. I guess I've been living under a rock. I don't know. But I just got turned on this summer to listening to podcasts, and because I'm not one to sit down and finish a book. I hate to read, not because I hate taking in content, but I'm a doer. I stand when I eat. I don't have TV. I don't have cable.
I stand when you pee too.
Exactly. Let Tatum ring. Pee freely.
Yeah. So exactly. I can't sit down and read a book either. So it's really helpful to listen to it in that way.
Totally. I love, and actually, that's one thing that helps me get through my long bike rides is I'll just listen to a podcast, and it's like time goes by like crazy, especially when it's a really good one. So I can completely understand how that would cure you, because it really has for me too. And this is my first time being on one, and it's really exciting. I love it.
Oh, good. Yeah. And every Friday we share a story similar to yours where it's like, we just had a guy who's building an outdoor gear shop here in Denver, a pretty successful so far, but he's he had to live in his van for 7 months in a parking lot to make it. And he's like, it's 3 degrees outside, me and my dog in my van, and I've got this business that I'm in charge of, and I lay in my van thinking what am I doing with my life? It's very similar in that sense.
Yeah, totally.
And there's so many moments where you want to quit. You legitimately, I just a few weeks, probably last week, honestly, I was at the point where, please just take this off my hands. I just forget all this. And then you reach a breakthrough right after that. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's almost set up that way to where anytime there's this super, super hard go, there's a small crack in that challenge right after that. And if for the people that keep pushing, the people that are persistent and are wise with it, there's a mm-hmm. point where you need to stop. But if you can keep going, man, it's gonna break at some point, and you're gonna get a win.
Yeah, I think one of the best quotes that one of my old bosses ever gave me. It was a time in my sales, we were having a rough quarter, and I was just really down because I'd worked so hard and my numbers weren't good at that time. And there was just all these things going wrong with the deals I was working on. And he said to me, and I'd never heard anybody say this, and it's just very simple, but nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. So on the days when it just seems like, man, nothing's going right for me, and what, I gotta do something different, I just have to tell myself, no, today's just a bad day. Tomorrow it's going to be better. And then even when you have a win, you can't let your guard down, because you got to keep working. Like, that win doesn't mean you take a vacation and stop working hard, because it's not as good as it seems. It's always going to be up and down. So you have to be prepared for that. And that's something I've definitely had to work through, for sure, in my career.
That's great advice. I'm going to hold on to that. That's someone taught me a story about that one time, about a guy with a horse. He's like, he just would not let himself go up or down. And he said, but the people around him would. A horse ran away, and the horse that he used to plow his field, he's like, don't worry, it's going to be fine. Like, I can't let it get me down. The next day, the horse comes back with 25 other horses.
Nice.
So the son rounds it up, him and his son, and then his son tries to tame all of them because they're all wild. The next day, his son's riding one of these like wild Mustangs, and it bucks him off, and he breaks his leg. And everyone's like, no, what are you going to do? Your son he's got a broken leg. The harvest season's coming up. You're going to need him. You're going to need his help. And he's like, it's going to be okay. The next day, there was like a national draft to go into war, and his son would have surely been sent to the front lines if it were not for his broken leg. And so he got to stay at home. The leg eventually healed. The war was over. And it just taught him, like, you cannot let yourself get swept up in the emotional roller coaster of your circumstances.
Totally. That's a great story. I love that one.
Yeah, I think there's more to it. There's like 2 or 3 more stories, but I totally forgot. But you get the picture.
Yeah. I mean, a similar scenario happened with my broken shoulder. It led me to something that I would have never been led to had I not broken my shoulder. And I am actually grateful for that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, completely. And it was awesome. So that alone taught me that, if something horrible happens today, it's okay. I'm just going to deal with it, and tomorrow will be better. I mean, it's life. We are never going to stop having crappy days. We are never going to stop having wonderful days. It's just the way life is, and we have to just deal with them as they come, and not let your emotions control your thoughts, because your thoughts and your mind completely control your life.
That is absolutely true. Yeah, it's the power of your thoughts really creates your reality.
Totally.
So you're gonna be at Whisper Ridge for the winter, and then I think you're gonna be coaching at some point. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to follow you?
My Instagram is a great place to kind of see what my shenanigans are, and to send me messages. I'm on Facebook too. Nature and my hobbies are the things that I focus on, in my job. And so Instagram, my Instagram handle is _helmet hair _.
Okay. _helmet hair _.
Yeah. So I would love to follow anybody that follows me and see what they're up to. I'm really interactive on Instagram, and usually respond to everybody that interacts with me. And I love that platform. I'm not on Snapchat or anything. Social media is tough as it is. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it's almost like a necessary evil, especially when you're trying to build something like what you're doing. But at least you get to look at a lot of pretty pictures on Instagram.
They're great.
Yeah, not a lot of opinions on Instagram as much.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
That is a huge plus. Well, man, Angie, I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. And you know what? Shout out to our Peak Refuel friends.
Oh, yeah.
Because those dudes are incredible. They fully sponsor and support my racing. I've got their logo on the side of my van. I met them at Outdoor Retailer, and they are just an incredible group of dudes that are making an awesome freeze-dried meals for, like camping out in the mountains, or, anybody that needs it for races. And anybody that buys Backpackers Pantry or any of the other, competitors needs to seriously try Peak Refuel, because I think that they taste better than any of them, and they use, way better ingredients.
Which one's your favorite?
Oh, without a doubt, the beef marinara and the fettuccine, the pasta fettuccine. It's so good. So good.
I outfitted a trip recently for like 10, 12 guys with that, and that's what we ate. It's the best backpacking food I've ever had.
It is awesome. At the end of every one of my backpacking days, I cannot wait. It's like what I look, it's like, okay, today I'm hiking for beef marinara. That's what I'm going to eat at the end of the day. It's like a creamy beef marinara. It's so good. I love it.
That's funny.
But thanks for having me on, Mason. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, good, and good luck. Good luck with everything this winter, and I'll be following you now. So I'll see how you're doing.
Same to you. I will definitely keep in touch.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you know somebody that would make a good guest on the show, or if you have a pretty cool story about the outdoors or adventure sports that you want to tell us, please call us and leave a voicemail at 812-MAIL-POD. That is 812-624-5763. You can also send us an email at info@adventuresportspodcast.com. Again, it is always helpful to leave us a review on iTunes. And if you'd like to be a supporter of the show, you can give $5 a month at patreon.com/adventuresportspodcast. And links for all that stuff is also in the show notes. So thanks again for listening. And y'all get out there and do something so you can be on the show one day. All right, later. Don't forget, if you want to save 20% off the best backpacking food you're ever going to eat, go to peakrefuel.com and use ASP20 at checkout.